Welcome to the Agile Localization Podcast by Crowden, where we unpack the strategies and solutions that make localization fast, scalable, and efficient. I'm your host, Stefan Huyghe. It's a dark and cold morning here in Dallas, and I'm here with Szymon Metkowski. Szymon is joining us from Poland, where it's early afternoon, and Szymon is the CEO of Metkowski Translations. Welcome to the show, Szymon. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello, Stefan. Thank you for the invitation. Hello from Poznan, from a freezing city in Poland. Today it's like minus 12 degrees Celsius, which is about 10 degrees Fahrenheit here. I'm Szymon Metkowski. I've been in the language industry for over 2 decades. During the time, I've witnessed several technical revolutions, each of them accompanied by the statement that translators will disappear soon, which of course never happened. Today, I'd like to speak about modern challenges in my experience with UX localization and about integrations of the LLMs into my workflows.
Awesome. Let's dive right in. In your view, what are the most common misunderstandings product teams have about how language impacts interface design?
I have the feeling that product managers or product designers tend to treat localization as mere translation or replacing of words. Whereas from where I stand, it's a selling point. If you want to sell to a different culture, to a different language speaking people, you have to adapt their native language. There is there are many studies that confirm that people would buy only if the product is localized, if the information is localized. And there are some other studies that tell us that the language is an accelerator of trust or distrust. If the localization is done well, the buyer will have access directly to his limbic system where the emotions are, and he can make his emotional buying decision. If the localization is done poorly, the analyzing system kicks in, and we are looking subconsciously, we are looking for errors and how to fix them. So the buying decision just went away. Therefore, if we treat localization as mere replacing words, we are going nowhere in competition with native producers, with native vendors for certain products or services.
Yeah. How do you handle situations where UI constraints clash with language specific needs, Szymon?
Well, if you're localizing for words, you make this especially length of certain fields or messages in the UX in the user interface uh, that are tailored to the source language, whereas the target language might be a little longer, different shaped, with different grammar. So if the language professional is not included during the design phase, uh, all of a sudden in the waterfall model, when you get the ready files to localize in just as the last step, you can find your interface totally crashed down, your lines broken, your message not getting to the buyer. So I would say design phase. Include the linguist in the design phase.
What do you predict will be the next frontier in UX aware localization? Is it going to be microcopy, personalization, something else, or altogether?
I think altogether, you know, if we are going to this concept of having the attention of a buyer drone, you have to personalize for your target market. and your target audience. So it will be hyper personalization, not only when we're speaking, for instance, of DACH, not only for the DACH region, so Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, but separately for all these three countries, because the buyers might have different needs. So I think the next frontier will be hyper personalization, cultural adaptation to these specific needs of the buyers, and maybe some sort of. Okay, let's stick with
Yeah.
these two.
Okay, good. You've written about AI optimized content and prompt design. How do you see LLMs changing localization workflows for UX in particular?
UX is broad subject. We should name the specific field because every field LLMs have another kind of impact on every field. When we speak about microcopy, it helps maybe it might help to identify certain pitfalls as ambiguity, for instance. You can get during the localization you can get flags. Please don't use this word in this language. This is what a good prompt can do. Whereas in copy, in a bigger copy in marketing text, it could tell you, it could give you some examples or some variations of the ever repeating phrases. As translators, we often deal with certain schemes in source language that are hardly translatable into another languages. If you see the same sentence for the hundreds of time, you don't have the creativity to invent yet another translation of this, and LLM can help you with this.
Yeah. Do you think there should be any safeguards in place when using AI to generate UI copy or micro content in multiple language? And if so, what do you think the safeguards should be?
Definitely. Um, I really don't believe in generating content through AI without supervisions on the flow, not without, not meaning not the post edition, but supervision on the flow. So there should, as a safeguard, there should be a human supervising it. This is my first and most important safeguard, but also a good designed glossary, uh, rules for using certain phrases, certain grammar. These are all things that can be and should be defined beforehand.
I would love to know kind of what that looks in reality to you. Can you maybe describe a case where you used prompt design to improve translation quality or UX localization?
Yeah, this was exactly the case I mentioned in the previous answer. Uh, I've got tons of articles with the brand experience, with history of the brand, and so on and so on, from one client, and he was using the same structures all over again. Most what is even worse, he used structures that work only in German. Uh, so if this text had if this text was to be interesting or appealing to the target audience in Poland, I needed to transcreate virtually every sentence, and it was very hard. So I've made a prompt with some brand tone of voice, with the product description. Uh, I've asked the model to generate for every sentence like 3 or 4 alternatives. Uh, Mostly, I made a collage from all 4, but the work moved ahead, and the final product, the final service was to the client's satisfaction.
Yeah, that's That's pretty interesting. I like that. What are the risks of over relying on AI and localization, especially from a UX perspective, you think?
You might, uh, here I have a good example. You might end up silly. Um, Recently, I was buying some ski equipment for my daughter, and I went to this webpage with a great offer. And as uh, every other user, I used the Polish version of the site because, as EU says, 90% of people browsing the internet use their native site. And I was choosing the equipment. I needed to buy some poles, and there was this menu I opened, and it said ski boots, skis, I don't know, helmets, Polish people, like the Poles. which is a mistake made by over relying on automated translation or using AI. Nobody checked it and it is silly. It is silly. And the first thought that came to my mind, it's a scam. I don't trust this page. I don't trust this vendor. So I didn't buy. I went to my ski club and I asked about this site, whether it's safe or not. But had I found the same poles with the same price on another, more reliable web page, I would say I would just buy there and not from this first vendor.
What should we do to safeguard against those types of mistake and improve quality? What metrics or feedback loops do you recommend for evaluating AI assisted localization?
Starting from the end of your question, I'd use the same metrics we used by evaluating a web page that's native and a certain language. So, how is the user journey, whether it's successful or not, whether he goes to the place we want him to go, uh, and does he or she does they leave the site? I don't know, after 5 seconds, and most importantly, do they change the language from the native language to the I don't know, to English? Because this one would be the most important metrics for the failure of localization. And what are the first part? Sorry, was what can we do to safeguard?
I think that pretty much answered the question. Maybe we can move on to the next one. In a future where AI can produce first drafts for UX text, what skills matter the most, you think, for translators or linguists?
This is interesting. I think quick decisions and cultural embedment in the target culture. So if you see a draft, you should be able, like somehow, like in post editing, to validate for the fraction of second whether it's good or not, whether it's rubbish or not. But uh, AI differs from machine translation in the way that the sentences look very nice, and you cannot tell at the first glance whether the facts are real or hallucinated. So, what really matters in difficult fields like life sciences or law would be the knowledge behind. So, you read it as a specialist and you see it's rubbish. You read it mm, as a lay person and you see, well, it's interesting, I want to take it. So the core competence for a translator would be the uh, quick decision, the subject knowledge, and the verification whether this whole answer of the AI makes sense or it's just rubbish.
I want to circle back to something you said a little bit earlier that piqued my interest. You talked about microcopy, and I want to ask you a question about that. Maybe you can explain what microcopy is for those people that don't understand. But what makes microcopy different from regular text translation in particular?
Microcopy are the text is the text on the bottom of a page, is the text of a message you get when something goes wrong or when something goes right. So every short text that interacts with the user uh, during his use of our service, and it is the first image the user gets from the company. When it's poor, it builds distrust. If they can't do something that easy right, how can I trust their product? When it's right and when it's with good humor, the user will prefer your service over another one. We have a great example for that with Polish parcel services. Like the native one has a great humor on their page, and it is very nice to use. Uh, the big ones, the European ones, are localized, and you sometimes get confused. Have I done this right or not? So the translation of this has to be very aware. It cannot be ambiguous. It cannot be general. It has to fulfill the function the certain microcopy is meant for. And funny you should say about the interesting thing in microcopy. That's where the most errors happen.
Yeah, it leaves a very unkept impression right away when you get to a website that doesn't have the right button callouts. It's very impactful. I agree. What role can linguists play to avoid localization pitfalls in microcopy, you think?
This is a consultant's role. Uh, During the design phase, you need to someone to pinpoint that if you have a fairly easy message, you successfully saved the file. It won't work in Polish because you has gender, and it can be polite you or different you. Saved has gender because verbs in the past have gender. Uh, Successfully is kind of hard to localize, and the file is okay. um, but if someone tells you that you should go with file saved or file successfully saved, it will make no problems at all in localization, and the message is the same. So you don't lose anything. You don't use your, I don't know, brand's tone of voice or something in that kind.
Yeah. What tools or what are your favorite tools or workflows for localizing microcopy at scale, Shimon?
What do you mean by at scale?
Well, it's
I localize for
yeah,
Polish.
yeah. I mean, when you broaden your when the work becomes more voluminous, what are the best tools to use for microcopy?
Crowding, of course. No, every tool that has the preview. If you have the context, you are on the winning side. So crowding works really well with that. And what I like the most in crowding, it gets you also the third language version, which can make you more wondering if your translation is right. So if I get localization from German into Polish, but I see the language version, which is already there, I have more context, even more context. When I see it on the page with a preview, I'm on the right side.
Good. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the sprint cycle. How should localization planning be introduced into the sprint cycle to avoid being a bottleneck, in your opinion?
Again, if you plan the grammar, if you make the documents, the glossary, the rules beforehand with a language consultant, with a linguist, you avoid all these pitfalls because you simply don't use verbs in the past in Polish. So you redesign the source text, the source code, um, and you don't have to make adjustments later.
Yeah. What are the common friction points when localization is treated as an after build rather than during the build?
Just what I said. You have lines are broken. The interface doesn't work, and then you need to fix this. There is a deadline. Everything is already shipped, and it is not possible to recompile the code. There are many possible friction points. So in the end, you either get poor product or you get very long. Um, you're just late.
What advice would you give to a scaling product team that sees localization as a checkbox rather than a strategic capability in agile delivery?
I would ask the question: would you send a product to a sales person you don't know, a product that he doesn't and he or she doesn't know, and expect him to be successful? So, of course not. Please don't treat the localization as a nice to have feature. It's a selling point.
Yeah. And when you talk about making content sound natural, local, or culturally relevant, how do you define natural across very different cultures? Do you have a certain methodology for that?
Well, as said, I localize it into my culture, so I kind of feel what is natural for the reader. Uh, but if I would advise anybody to that, I would go for a local person, for a specialist who knows the culture, who feels the what feels natural to the reader.
Yeah. What are the specifics that companies need to pay attention to when they're translating into Polish? Are there specific things that only demand attention in Polish and maybe not in other languages that are specific to your particular language adaptation?
Yes, of course, the grammar is very complex. So the nouns change between cases. If you go with variables in Polish, they won't work. This is the most important point for our language. But also the length, the verbs. There are certain. It cannot be automated in simple rules. Simple rules. And there's the one other pitfall I can think of the top of my head. The ransom note effect. If you use a font, a brand font that doesn't have all the European characters, like Polish characters, then you get the message with some Arial in between. So every letter is a different font. You get the ransom note effect, and there are many such things. We are used to do computers speaking very um, to computers communicate as a friend with you. We don't use polite tone of voice when displaying computer messages. Whereas some time ago, I don't know, it changes, but some time ago, every German message was in polite form to the user. So there are many differences, but all of them can be avoided if considered on an early phase.
Yeah, how can product teams design interfaces from the start with language and culture in mind so that they don't have to do the kind of retrofitting that you just talked about?
I think a wise thing to do would be a master copy for localization. So let me give you an example from my experience. I've Let's imagine a post or text from coming from Germany about three companies cooperating and working on some awesome project you want to share with your audience. And Germans love to hook or to lead in with a proverb of saying. So probably the article have the title "Alle gute Dinge sind drei," all good things come in threes, and within the text there will be references to the title on and on. It's not localizable because this saying works only in Germany. And if you translate it literally, it will create this sense of awkwardness or um, foreign feeling. It's not natural. It's not safe. You know. So a wise thing to do would be to create a master copy with another title. Let's say three is a powerful number in many cultures. What you get is a natural master with a good reference to respect for other cultures, which is very good for localization. And your localization teams all over the world do not have to crack their head how to translate this proverb into the target culture. So my point would be create your source text and then have your specialist to create a neutral master for the localization with your brand tone of voice, with all the things you want to convey in your message.
Yeah, this sounds like a really key example of where transcreation would come into play and shed some fruits. I would think if you could adapt it in different cultures. Let's talk about accessibility and inclusion for a second. What are the key accessibility and inclusion considerations in global UX, in your opinion?
We have to take into consideration for mm, the inclusive language, meaning meaning all the rules that are now applying for languages across Europe and the world. So gender inclusion, people with less literacy inclusion, and people with disabilities inclusion. So this field is very difficult with AI because AI is trained with some obsolete data. I've written a post about it, how AI is misogynic and misogynistic in Polish, but it's not only this problem. It has old data, and we are planning for the future in localization. So we have to adapt the modern the rules from today to the language. Um, and I think it is quite difficult because it has to be for Polish. It has to be it has to be rewritten.
Yeah, was maybe one last question to wrap it up, Szymon. You're specialized in Polish translations. What's a really great tip you can give people for that are interested in localizing their content in the Polish sphere, so to speak?
Yeah, my piece of advice for localizing into Polish would be go with humor, go bold, don't be afraid, just vet your content before you go localizing it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shimon, for spending some time with us this morning or afternoon for you. And we'll keep an eye on your activities on social media and your posts. Thank you for spending some time with us and talk to you soon.
Thank you for having me, Stefan. See you.
Well, folks, that's a wrap on today's episode of the Agile Localization Podcast by Crowden. We hope you found it as insightful as we did. If you enjoyed today's conversation and want to learn more about how leading companies are managing their multilingual content efficiently, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. Thank you for tuning in. For more resources on how to streamline your localization process, visit crowden.com. See you next time.